I caught her spying, then she told me the truth. Mint and something else, something I couldn't quite place, like static. Electricity had taken up smoking cloves. We drove for half an hour in silence. The desert stretched out on both sides like a forgotten thought, and the only sound was the soft crackle of the old stereo. She stared out the window with a kind of intense detachment, like someone watching a zoo exhibit but unsure which side of the glass they were on. So I ventured, "You got a name?" "I do." There was a pause. I waited. She didn't elaborate. "And what is it?" I prompted. She turned to me. Expression unreadable. "Would you prefer the phonetic adaptation or the vibrational frequency approximation?" I blinked. "I think I'll start with the phonetic adaptation." She considered this. "Color cool and matte, just matte, no frequency approximation required." She nodded solemnly as if I'd said something profound. "Then thank you for the transportation, just matte. I will compensate you." "You really don't need to." "I mean, unless you've got gas money or alien gold bars." She gave me a small smile. "I have something better in sight." "Neat," I said, trying to sound casual and not at all concerned that I might have picked up a lunatic. "You a life coach or a fortune teller?" "I am a recon operative of the Alluri Collective," she said plainly, as if she were telling me she worked at a shoe store. My designation was retracted. "My mission is in flux, right? And I'm a retired centaur assassin from Mars, currently studying interpretive dance." She didn't laugh. "You're not retired," she said. "I almost drove us off the road." We stopped at a gas station around dusk, the kind with flickering lights, one working pump, and a vending machine stocked entirely with expired beef jerky and off-brand root beer. While I filled up, Call wandered around the lot, inspecting the trash cans and reading every sign like they were ancient texts. She asked if Hot Dogosaurus was an Earth deity. I told her yes. She said that explained a lot. In the car that night, I woke up to find her sitting cross-legged in the back seat, holding a device that looked like someone had taken apart a toaster and rebuilt it using anxiety and alien tech. It pulsed with a soft violet light, and she was pointing it at my head. "Hey," I croaked, "if this is an abduction, I'd like to request a snack card." She didn't flinch. "Your neural oscillations are unusually active during REMM. I require data. You could have just asked for a dream journal," I muttered, rubbing my eyes. "Or at least bought me dinner first." She tilted her head. "Is that a mating prerequisite in your culture?" "It's polite," I said, "and it involves fewer glowing boxes aimed at my skull." She nodded slowly, tucking the device away. "Understood. Next time we will share dinner before cerebral scans." I wasn't sure whether to feel reassured or deeply cosmically concerned. The next morning, she made me coffee. Somehow I still don't know where she got it, but it was perfect. Just the right amount of bitterness and sweetness, like it knew me better than I knew myself. She sipped hers too and winced. "This tastes like soil filtered through burned optimism," she said. "Welcome to Earth," I replied. We drove in silence for a while after that, the desert giving way to stretches of cracked highway and occasional gas stations where time seemed to move backwards. Kier stared ahead, her silver eyes unreadable. "You're not from here, are you?" I finally said. She looked at me. "Neither are you, just Matt. You only think you are, and that somehow was the least confusing thing she said all week. By the third day I was sure Kira was either a genius-level cosplayer with access to forbidden military tech or the most deadpan lunatic I'd ever met. She still hadn't asked where we were going, and I still hadn't figured out how her jacket never seemed to wrinkle despite her spending half the trip curled up like a cat in the passenger seat. At one point, I swore I saw the sleeves adjusting themselves, as if the coat was ironing itself while she slept. We were somewhere in Arizona, probably still on Earth, though at this point I couldn't completely rule out interdimensional detours. When she finally started talking, not about small Things, weather, music, the lingering mystery of how vending machine sandwiches haven't been classified as biohazards, but about herself, or rather, about the version of herself that wasn't supposed to be talking to me at all. They Alluri do not make direct contact with anomalies, she said over a lunch of lukewarm burritos and questionable soda. The protocol was altered when your neurological frequency registered at 6.13 toss. That sounds impressive, I said, chewing cautiously. Is that good? Like a high score? It's impossible, she said, blinking slowly. No earthborn human has ever produced that frequency. You should be statistically non-existent. Well, I shrugged. My high school math teacher said the same thing about me passing algebra. She ignored that we believe you are a result of residual drift, genetic seepage from Project Helix seeded nearly 8 Earth centuries ago. Okay, I said slowly, I'm going to need you to rewind a little. I've seen every sci-fi movie ever made, and you're losing me between the toss and the gene seepage. She folded her hands. Your ancestors were unknowingly involved in an Alluri experiment, a long-term genetic integration test. You somehow carry markers that shouldn't have survived more than 3 generations. Are you saying I'm what, an alien? She shook her head. Not alien. You are adjacent. Your DNA contains synthetic resonance code, eerie in origin, like a forgotten note inside a symphony. I stared at her, then at my burrito, then back at her. Are you sure it's not the gas station cheese sauce doing something to my genome? Keller sighed. Your humor is inefficient. It's survival instinct. I shot back. That night we camped in the middle of the painted desert under a sky so clear it looked photoshopped. Kira didn't sleep. Not really. She entered a state she called neurostasis, where she sat perfectly still, eyes half-lidded, and hummed a soft tone that felt like it was coming from inside my own teeth. I sat a few feet away, trying not to freak out, sipping bad coffee from a thermos and wondering if my life had always been this weird and I just never noticed. At some point Kalra opened her eyes and said, "You still dream about the tower, don't you?" I nearly dropped the thermos. "Wait, how do you?" "I never told anyone about that. It's not a dream," she said. "It's a memory, an echo from a previous life wave." "Previous what? Now you don't remember because your species compartmentalizes trauma with amusing television and sports drinks," she said gently, "but the signal is still embedded in your deep cortex. I have seen it, and what you just tuned in like it's a Netflix special, correct? I hope you at least skipped the episode where I cried watching Free Willy." She blinked. "That was unexpected." We both went quiet for a while. Eventually I asked the question that had been crawling around the back of my mind since day one. "Why me?" She didn't answer at first. Instead she reached into her coat and pulled out a tiny cube, transparent with threads of light running through it like a micro thunderstorm in a jar. She set it between us. It floated. "This contains the last viable genetic pattern of the Alluri," she said, "the collective memory, intellect, and essence of my species. It is incomplete, fractured, missing something crucial." I stared at the cube. "Let me guess, me not just you," she said, "but something inside you, an inherited spark. We believe your genome contains the final cipher, the sequence needed to restore stability to the matrix. So I'm like a biological password in essence. That's not even the weirdest thing I've been called this week." She tilted her head. "What was weirder? Some guy in Tucson thought I was a government lizard hybrid, tried to exercise me with essential oils." Kira actually laughed at that, a quiet, clear laugh that sounded more like a chime in a wind tunnel. "Your species is tragically imaginative. Thanks. We try." There was more silence after that, the kind of silence you only get in the desert when the wind dies down and even the sand seems to hold its breath. "I wasn't supposed to tell you," Kyra said at last. "My mission was to observe, gather data, then leave." "But you didn't know," she said. "I stayed Because you smiled at me when I asked if your air conditioner was a mating ritual. I grinned. It's still up for debate. The wind picked up again, rustling the canvas of our tent, stirring the dust into little ghost swirls around the floating cube. Kira watched me like she was trying to solve a puzzle with no edges, no picture on the box, and for the first time I believed her all of it, because deep down I'd always felt wrong, misplaced, like I was a prop in someone else's story, waiting for the script to catch up. Now I knew why. Turns out I was written by aliens. We made it to Nevada with 2 flat tires, one bizarre encounter with a philosophical raccoon at a rest stop, and an increasingly awkward silence that neither of us seemed brave enough to acknowledge. Kira sat beside me, staring at the highway with that same detached intensity, like she was always seconds away from either delivering a universal truth or vaporizing a road sign with her mind. At this point I'd stopped trying to guess what the day would bring. My internal calendar now operated on before Calera. And after I found out I'm a cosmic USB drive, I glanced at her ears, which, yes, still shimmered faintly under sunlight, like little satellite dishes designed by elves. You ever consider wearing a hat? I asked. She frowned. Why would I impair my auditory range for aesthetic camouflage? It's called fashion, I said. Also, not getting abducted by men in black. She considered. This would a beanie be sufficient? That mental image hit me hard. Kira, galactic operative, wearing a slouchy knit beanie and sipping chai at a bookstore, discussing Tolkien with a guy who thinks he's deep because he owns 3 tarot decks. You'd rock it, I said. We were heading for a town that didn't show up on my GPS officially, called Draxmoor, according to the crumpled note Kai had pulled from a pocket dimension in her coat. She said it was the closest remaining Alari beacon point on Earth. I didn't ask how many other points there had been or what happened to them. I developed a healthy fear of the phrase no longer active due to incident on the way. She showed me more of her tech. That floating cube from earlier, it now lived in the glove compartment, humming softly next to a half-eaten protein bar. She pulled out a data ribbon, like a strip of transparent film with living code crawling through it. When she held it up, symbols flickered across the surface, rearranging themselves based on the direction of her gaze. This is your ancestral drift pattern, she said, pointing to a sequence of fractal spirals. Your genetic resonance aligns with sub-layer 3 of the Alori ecospectrum. That should be impossible. Yeah, well, I also can't parallel park, I said. Miracles happen. She gave me a look that was somewhere between confusion and affection, like a teacher who just realized her most chaotic student was also her favorite. We stopped in a diner shaped like a flying saucer. Whether that was irony or poor architectural planning, I wasn't sure. The waitress Mags called everyone sweetheart and served coffee that could strip paint. Kyra scanned the room for surveillance drones while I tried to convince my pancakes to behave like food. Mags glanced at Kalira's ears. Cosplay convention in town, Kyra answered without missing a beat. Number, I am genetically incompatible with standardized human aesthetics. Mag said. You want your egg scrambled or abducted back on the road? I asked, the thing that had been rattling around in my head like a marble in a washing machine. If I'm this genetic cipher or whatever, what exactly are you supposed to do with me? Her hands were clasped in her lap, posture so still it almost looked choreographed. There are protocols, integration, procedures, neural synchronization. That sounds like either a very bad date or a really aggressive spa treatment. She didn't smile this time. If successful, the Alari collective could reinitialize its core consciousness without the missing strand. We will collapse within 5 cycles, and if the integration fails, she looked at me, then really looked, then you will die. Probably explosively. I choked on air. You buried the lead there, Kalira. I was Minimizing panic, your species reacts unpredictably to the concept of explosive neurological dissolution. Yeah. We tend to not love that weird, right? She opened her mouth, probably to recite some Stoic RE protocol about sacrifice and destiny, but stopped. Her eyes flicked toward the rearview mirror there. Following us, I blinked. Who's they? Kira reached into her jacket and pulled out a flat silver disc that unfolded into a six-sided drone with humming wings. It hovered just outside the window, scanning the landscape with a blue light that made my skin tingle. Unregistered orbital spawn mercenaries, possibly merit class. That sounds expensive. They're not here to negotiate. Naturally, I floored the gas pedal. The old rental shrieked like a dying goat, and we rocketed down the highway, desert blurring into sand-colored smears behind us. The horizon shimmered and then broke too. Black shapes appeared out of nothing, angular and sharp like origami made by a very angry god. One of them fired. The rear window exploded in a flurry of safety glass. I just vacuumed back. There, I shouted, veering hard right. Kyra pressed her hands to the dash, muttering something in a language that sounded like musical math. The floating cube in the glove box buzzed louder. Then, out of nowhere, a ripple. The sky twisted. Colors bled sideways and we were gone. Not exploded, not dead, gone. When the light cleared, we were parked in a desert crater surrounded by metallic blue cacti that glowed gently and whispered to each other in pulses. A twin moon sky loomed above, stars spinning in slow spirals. Did we just teleport? I whispered. Kalira looked drained, her silver eyes dimmer. It was a displacement fold. I don't recommend it often. Noted. Let's never do it again. She leaned back, chest rising and falling slowly. They'll find us again. They always do. I stared out at the alien landscape. Well, I said, at least the cactus is friendly. It blinked at me and waved. Kalira collapsed not long after we landed. If you could call dimensions somersaulting through the back door of reality, landing one moment. She was slumped in the passenger seat, breathing like a Zen monk at the end of a long karaoke night. The next, she was face first in the glowing sand, mumbling something about phase echoes and quantum hangovers. I naturally panicked. Hey Kira, don't you dare die now. You haven't even shown me your spaceship yet. She stirred, slightly groaned, then rolled over and squinted at the sky like it owed her rent. I require a stabilization node. You need a sandwich and a nap, I countered, pulling her back toward the car. Though calling it a car felt like an insult after it survived an interdimensional road trip and still smelled faintly of pine-scented air freshener and impending doom. Our new location wasn't just desert. It was like some alien Pinterest board had been let loose. The sky shimmered with twin moons that pirouetted slowly, casting shadows in opposing directions. The glowing cacti made soft cooing noises every time we got too close, which was unsettling, like being gently judged by bioluminescent succulents. The terrain was familiar and alien all at once. Cliffs floated, rocks hovered, and gravity occasionally forgot itself and took personal breaks. Were inside a pocket fold, Kyra explained, groggy as I helped her sit up. This place exists between fixed coordinates. It's like waiting room space. Awesome. We broke into the universe's dentist office, an apt analogy, she said, eyes fluttering half open. Except here the anesthesia may become sentient. I laughed, though I wasn't sure if she was joking. We set up a makeshift camp using emergency supplies from her coat. Yes, she pulled out an entire foldable tent, a thermal mat, and something that looked suspiciously like a portable wormhole stabilizer, and suspiciously unlike a coffee machine. She called it a thermonutrient unit, which I decided was just alien for sad smoothie bar. The air in the fold space was thick with static, like the atmosphere couldn't decide whether to storm or sing at night. It did both. Pulses of soft blue lightning danced across the sky without a sound, followed by moments of quiet Harmonics like a music box winding down. After a dream, Kyra recovered slowly. She was no longer the unflinching recon operative from earlier here in this. Between plays she looked tired, like the mission was no longer theoretical but deeply personal. Kyra, I asked over one of our dinners a packet of rehydrated alien root mush that tasted like Kale's moodier cousin. Why did you really choose me? She hesitated. The silence dragged just long enough for the cactus behind us to politely suggest I mind my business with a puff of glittery spores. You were not the only anomaly, she said finally. There were others, but they didn't react the way you did. Meaning when told they were genetic time bombs wrapped in Earth. Sarcasm. They panicked, or worse, believed it gave them license to dominate. I made a face. Yikes. So I was the least terrible option, she smiled faintly. You were the only one who made a joke. We sat together for a long while watching a herd of what I can only describe as gravitifying jelly moose amble across the sky. One of them stopped to stare at us, blinked sideways, and floated on. I always felt weird, I said quietly, not like sci-fi weird, but like I wasn't syncing with the rhythm of everything, like I was humming a different song while the rest of the world danced to a beat I couldn't. Kyra didn't look at me, but I felt the weight of her attention. Anyway, you were never broken. You were simply tuned for a different frequency that actually helps more than it should, I admitted. Then the ground hummed. It was subtle at first, a distant murmur. The cactus choir went dead silent, their lights dimming. The jelly moose, because I refused to call them anything else, froze midair, eyes wide. Kira was already standing, weapon drawn, something sleek and silver with floating segments that rearranged themselves with every breath they found us. I stood too, because apparently I enjoy bad decisions. How I thought this place was off the map. They must have synced with the last echo burst or trace my jump. She turned to me, deadly calm. You need to hide. No chance. This isn't bravery, she said. It's suicide. Good news, I replied. Never been graded either. She opened her mouth to argue, but it was too late. The sky split. No thunder, no flare, just a curtain of light peeling back to reveal a ship, sleek, black, elegant in that predatory way sharks envy. It hovered like it didn't believe in gravity and wanted everyone to know it. Then it spoke, not out loud, inside my head. Deliver the genome or be deconstructed. I'm already emotionally deconstructed, I said aloud. Go pick on someone with less therapy bills. Kira fired first, an arc of light that sliced through the air like liquid electricity. The ship retaliated with a shock wave that knocked us both backward. My ears rang. The sand caught me like soft cement. And then the cube, Kalira's sacred data archive, rose from her coat pocket and began to sing. It wasn't a noise, not really, more like a language of memory, of stars colliding and reforming. It pulsed through the fold space like a heartbeat, syncing with the alien landscape. The cacti lit up, the sky turned purple. The jelly moose began to chant, yes, chant, and I felt something click inside me, a key in a lock I hadn't known existed. Kalira looked at me in alarm. You're resonating. Well, I'm not doing it on purpose, I shouted over the psychic storm. No, it's working. You're syncing with the Alari core. I wanted to scream, to laugh, to run, preferably all at once, but I didn't, because somehow, someway I wasn't scared anymore. I was exactly where I was meant to be. The cube floated above my head like a miniature sun, shedding rays of silent thought instead of light. The singing had become louder, now harmonic, ancient, alien, yet weirdly catchy. I found myself humming along under my breath, which was deeply concerning, considering I had no idea what language it was or whether I was accidentally swearing at some intergalactic deity. Kyra stood beside me, one hand stretched toward the cube, the other clutching that strangely elegant weapon like it was the last safety net in a collapsing dream. Her Silver eyes glowed faintly, not the aggressive luminescence of a warrior, but something calmer, softer, reverent there. Backing off, she said. I blinked. Who is? She nodded toward the ship, still hovering like a silent predator in the sky, except now it had paused. No more shock waves, no more telepathic ultimatums, just waiting, watching like it too was listening to the song. What's happening? I asked, mostly to distract myself from the fact that my arms were tingling like I just high-fived a Tesla. Collier syncing with the core pattern, Kira said, eyes wide. Not just accessing it, amplifying it. You're stabilizing the Alari frequency, the decay it's revering. I tried to speak, but the inside of my head was busy reconfiguring itself. My thoughts stretched like taffy, wrapping around unfamiliar memories, visions of floating cities with crystalline towers, libraries encoded in color, and light beings with eyes like orbiting moons, whispering names I didn't know but felt written in my marrow. Caller gasped. The collective is responding. They're waking. I didn't know what to do, so I waved at the ship. Hey, guys, not to be rude, but if you could not vaporize us, that'd be super. The ship shimmered once, then flickered and disappeared, just blinked out of existence like a failed magic trick. Even the jelly moose looked startled, though that may have been because one of them had wandered too close to a cactus and now had sparkles stuck to its nose. Kira lowered her weapon, letting out a long breath. They've stood down the mirror only obey strength and legacy. They sense the